Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a fascinating topic that ties right into ancient Stoic wisdom. The Stoics, during their long and meaningful lives, mastered the art of human psychology, especially when it comes to understanding relationships. They knew that observing subtle signs and patterns in people's behavior was key to living a harmonious life. This applies to modern relationships too, particularly when a woman with a complicated romantic past starts letting certain phrases slip. These phrases can tell you a lot about her mindset, her past, and where things might be heading in your relationship. Now, before we dive in, make sure to watch the video until the end, because I'm going to reveal 7 key phrases that women with a lot of experience in relationships tend to accidentally let slip. If you've heard any of these in your relationship, you'll want to pay close attention. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if any of this resonates with you, feel free to comment your story below and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. All men are this, all men are that. The first phrase you might hear is some version of all men are this, all men are that. It might sound harmless at first, but when a woman starts generalizing all men, especially in a negative light, it's a significant red flag. What this reveals is that she may be carrying emotional baggage from her past relationships, and instead of addressing and processing those experiences, she's lumping you, and possibly all men she encounters, into the same category. You see, the danger here is that when she makes these sweeping statements, she's projecting her past disappointments onto you, which isn't just unfair, it's harmful to your relationship. She might say things like, all men are liars, or all men only care about one thing. These kinds of remarks stem from unresolved pain and a lack of closure, suggesting that she hasn't truly moved on from her past experiences. And instead of addressing her emotional scars, she's applying a blanket judgment to an entire gender. Now, from a Stoic perspective, generalizations of this nature were seen as unwise and irrational. The Stoics believed that true wisdom came from seeing individuals as they are and not as extensions of past experiences or broad categories. In Stoic philosophy, the key was to assess each person based on their character and actions, not the actions of others or based on emotional assumptions. This applies especially in relationships. A Stoic man would remind himself to focus on what's real in the present, rather than being tied down by the emotional baggage of the past. When a woman says, all men are selfish, or all men cheat, what she's really doing is revealing unresolved trauma. It's an indication that she hasn't yet healed from previous relationships and that she's bringing this emotional weight into the present, even though it has no place there. The problem is, once she starts seeing you through this lens of negativity, it becomes incredibly difficult for her to truly see and appreciate you for who you are. Every kind gesture, every word of reassurance, and every loving act might be overshadowed by the assumption that you're just like the others. This not only puts unfair pressure on you, but also damages the foundation of trust and understanding that is essential in a relationship. Why does this matter so much in your relationship? The answer lies in the subtle power of perception. If she's stuck in the mindset that all men are flawed in the same way, no matter how good or kind or different you may be, she'll have trouble seeing you as an individual. Instead of recognizing your unique qualities, your strengths, your values, and the effort you put into the relationship, she'll constantly compare you to her past partners or to the stereotypical bad man she has in her mind. This can lead to feelings of frustration, resentment, and even alienation. You'll start to feel like you're fighting a ghost from her past, rather than building something meaningful in the present. The Stoics taught that clinging to past experiences, especially negative ones, prevents us from living in the present moment. In the context of a relationship, this means that if your partner is stuck in the past, replaying old hurts and applying them to you, she's unable to fully engage with the relationship you're trying to create together. It's as if she's seeing everything through a fog of past experiences, which distorts reality. you could be the most loyal, caring, and trustworthy partner, but if she's convinced that all men cheat, you'll always be walking on thin ice, trying to prove yourself against her preconceived notions. So how do you navigate this situation? First and foremost, it's essential to approach the issue calmly and with understanding. If you notice this behavior, these sweeping generalizations of men, don't react with frustration or anger. That will only reinforce her belief that all men are incapable of understanding her. Instead, take a Stoic approach. Address the issue with empathy and clarity. Ask her why she feels that way. Is there a specific incident from her past that's fueling these thoughts? Open up the conversation about where these beliefs come from and whether she's open to seeing things differently based on the person you are and the relationship you're building together. It's also crucial to reaffirm your individuality in the relationship. You can remind her, in a non-confrontational way, that while her feelings are valid, a relationship cannot thrive on generalizations. You are not those other men. You are not her past. The two of you must navigate this relationship as two unique individuals, and each partner must see and appreciate the other for who they truly are. If she's receptive to the conversation, you may find that the generalizations start to fade as she begins to heal and view you more clearly. However, if she's unwilling or unable to move past these ingrained beliefs, it may be a sign of deeper issues that will require time, patience, and possibly even professional help to resolve. What's important is that you don't allow yourself to be swallowed up by her past. The Stoics would remind us that while we can't control other people's thoughts or emotions, we can control how we respond. In this case, the response is not to internalize her generalizations, but to remain centered in your truth, to communicate openly, and to encourage healing and growth. By doing so, you not only protect yourself from the emotional burden of her past, but also create the space for a healthier, more honest relationship to flourish. Chapter 2. Comparing you to her past partners. Another subtle but telling sign that a woman has had a lot of men in her past is when she starts making comparisons between you and her former partners. This might come in the form of offhand remarks like, "My ex used to do that," or "You remind me of someone I used to date." On the surface, these comments might seem innocent, but they carry a lot of weight. Comparisons are a dangerous game in relationships because they immediately put pressure on the current partner to measure up to an imagined standard, one that often doesn't even exist anymore. The Stoics understood that living in the past or clinging to comparisons is a surefire way to disrupt one's peace of mind. For a relationship to flourish, both partners need to be fully present, focusing on each other's qualities rather than how they stack up to someone else. When a woman begins comparing you to her exes, it often indicates that she hasn't fully let go of her past relationships. This might manifest as her remembering the good parts of those relationships while glossing over the bad, or as her projecting her dissatisfaction with those past partners onto you. Why is this so problematic? Because no one can win a battle against a ghost. The comparisons are usually unfair, as they often emphasize only the idealized aspects of her past relationships. Maybe she remembers an ex being particularly romantic, or another one being more successful. Whatever the case may be, you are now being held to a standard that may not even reflect the reality of those relationships. Worse, if the comparisons are negative, "You're just like my ex who never listened to me," then you're starting on the defensive, constantly trying to prove that you're not like the men who came before you. Stoic wisdom teaches that true fulfillment comes from focusing on what's within your control, your actions, your character, your behavior. You can't control what her past experiences were or how she views them, but you can control how you respond to her comparisons. Rather than letting these comments chip away at your confidence or create tension, you can calmly steer the conversation toward the present. If she makes a remark about how her ex was so much more spontaneous, you can acknowledge her comment without getting defensive. Ask her what spontaneity means to her in this relationship and how the two of you can bring more of that quality into your lives. It's crucial not to fall into the trap of competing with her past. Trying to outshine or outperform her exes is a losing game, and it will only lead to resentment. Instead, shift the focus to the unique relationship that you're building together. You're not here to be better than the men who came before. You're here to offer her something different, something that comes from your own strengths and qualities. It's also important to communicate your feelings clearly. If the comparisons are becoming frequent, let her know how it makes you feel and that the two of you should focus on what's real in the present, not on past relationships. By steering the conversation toward the present, you're reminding her and yourself that the relationship you share is unique and it shouldn't be overshadowed by the ghosts of her past. The Stoics would advise you to maintain your own sense of self and integrity in the face of such challenges. Don't let her comparisons shake your confidence. Instead, focus on what you can control: your actions, your love, and your commitment, and let those qualities speak for themselves. Chapter 3: Resentment toward men in general. One of the more troubling signs that a woman may not have healed from her past relationships is when she expresses a deep mistrust or resentment toward men as a whole. You might hear phrases like, "I can't trust men," or "Men always let me down." While she may not be directly accusing you, these broad, sweeping statements about men as a collective reveal that she's harboring unresolved pain and possibly bitterness from past relationships. Stoicism teaches that we cannot control the actions of others, only our own responses to them. When a woman makes such generalizations, she's essentially projecting the wrongdoings of others onto you. Whether she realizes it or not, these statements create an invisible barrier between the two of you, preventing trust from fully developing. How can a relationship flourish when one partner has already decided that a whole gender, including you, is untrustworthy? It's essential to recognize that when a woman says she can't trust men, it's often a defense mechanism. She may have been hurt or betrayed in the past, and by painting all men with the same brush, she feels she's protecting herself from future pain. However, this mindset doesn't lead to healing or growth, it only deepens the divide. If she enters the relationship believing that betrayal is inevitable, she's setting the stage for a self-fulfilling prophecy. Her lack of trust may lead to behaviors that push you away or create unnecessary tension, ultimately reinforcing her belief that men are untrustworthy. As a Stoic, your role is to remain patient and centered. Rather than getting defensive or trying to convince her that you're different, focus on your own actions. Over time, trust is built not through words, but through consistent, reliable behavior. Show her through your actions that you are trustworthy and that her past does not define your relationship. But at the same time, it's important to have open, honest conversations about trust. Let her know how her comments make you feel and that trust is a two-way street. A relationship cannot survive without it. It's also important to establish healthy boundaries. If her mistrust of men begins to manifest as controlling or accusatory behavior, such as constantly checking up on you or questioning your loyalty, it's crucial to address this early on. A Stoic man remains firm in his values and does not allow himself to be unjustly accused or controlled by someone else's insecurities. Communicate openly about your need for trust and mutual respect, and if she's unable or unwilling to work on her issues, it may be a sign that she's not ready for a healthy relationship. Chapter 4: Secretive behavior around social events. If your partner frequently expresses a desire to attend social events alone or insists that you shouldn't accompany her to certain outings, this can be a subtle red flag. It might indicate unresolved issues from her past or an internal struggle with trust and intimacy. While maintaining separate social lives is healthy in any relationship, a consistent pattern of secretive behavior is worth paying attention to. If she's regularly excluding you from parts of her life, it raises serious questions about transparency, trust, and the overall health of your connection. From a Stoic perspective, honesty and openness are fundamental virtues. The Stoics believed that a relationship grounded in truth leads to harmony and deeper emotional connection. When secrets are kept, or when certain aspects of life are deliberately hidden, a division is created between partners. This distance can prevent the full emotional intimacy needed for a relationship to flourish. If your partner consistently insists on going to social events without you, it could signify deeper issues. These could range from a fear of losing her independence to lingering trust issues from past relationships. This behavior becomes particularly problematic when it starts to create emotional distance between you two. Over time, her frequent need to attend events alone, or her insistence that you remain uninvolved, may make you feel left out, unappreciated, or even suspicious. You might start questioning whether there's something she's hiding, even if that's not her intention. The key issue here is that this kind of secretive behavior can foster feelings of exclusion and mistrust, which, if left unaddressed, can erode the foundation of your relationship. For example, if she's consistently saying, "I'd rather go to this party alone," or "You don't need to come with me to this event," it's natural for you to wonder what's driving that need for separation. Is it simply a desire to maintain a sense of independence, or is there something deeper at play, like unresolved feelings from her past relationships, or a fear of being too vulnerable with you? It's essential to recognize that this pattern of behavior could stem from a lack of trust, either in you or in relationships in general, perhaps due to past hurts. The Stoics taught that one must address issues with calmness and clarity, seeking to understand the root causes rather than reacting with suspicion or frustration. When you notice this pattern, it's important to approach the subject calmly and with an open mind. Rather than confronting her with accusations or letting jealousy take over, have an honest conversation about why she feels the need to attend these events alone. Is she simply looking for time with friends, or is there something deeper that she's struggling to communicate? Giving her the space to explain her feelings without feeling cornered is crucial. She may be trying to assert her independence or preserve her identity within the relationship. But it's equally important for you to communicate your own feelings and concerns. Let her know how her secretive behavior makes you feel excluded, undervalued, or disconnected. This kind of dialogue can reveal whether her actions are simply a reflection of personal needs or whether there's a more significant issue at play. At the same time, it's essential to set clear boundaries. While it's perfectly fine for her to maintain her independence and enjoy time with her friends, a healthy relationship should be a shared experience. If she's unwilling to be more transparent or to explain why she's excluding you from certain events, it may suggest a deeper lack of trust or commitment. The Stoics believed in controlling what is within your power, and in this case, that means communicating your boundaries and expectations clearly. If she refuses to meet you halfway or dismisses your concerns, it's a strong indication that her past, perhaps unresolved trauma or a history of failed relationships, is still influencing her present behavior. Another layer to consider is whether her secretive behavior extends beyond social events. If she's withholding other aspects of her life, such as her interactions with certain people or her feelings about certain topics, it may point to a broader issue with vulnerability. A relationship requires openness on both sides, and if one partner is consistently hiding parts of their life, it creates an imbalance that can lead to greater mistrust. Transparency and honesty are essential for fostering emotional intimacy, and when a partner is secretive or distant, it can create feelings of loneliness even when you're together. If her actions are driven by a fear of vulnerability or a need to maintain control, those fears need to be addressed head-on. Encourage her to be open about her feelings and motivations, and be willing to listen without judgment. However, if she continues to withhold parts of her life from you, it's important to assess whether this relationship is fulfilling for both of you. Furthermore, the Stoics would advise focusing on what you can control, your own actions and reactions, rather than becoming consumed by worry about what she might be hiding. If you've made your concerns known and she still chooses to be secretive or distant, it may be a sign that her past issues are too ingrained to resolve without significant personal growth on her part. In the end, a healthy relationship requires both partners to be transparent and committed to emotional openness. While it's important to respect her need for independence, ongoing secretive behavior creates a barrier that prevents true connection. The Stoics believed in the power of wisdom through understanding, and in this case, that wisdom involves recognizing when a partner's behavior is damaging the relationship and when it's time to have a serious conversation about trust, transparency, and commitment. Chapter 5. Bringing up past mistakes too often. One of the most telling signs that a woman is carrying unresolved baggage from her past relationships is when she frequently brings up your past mistakes, even after they've been addressed or supposedly forgiven. While it's natural to reflect on the past occasionally, especially in moments of conflict or insecurity, constantly revisiting old wounds can create a toxic environment. When your past mistakes are brought up repeatedly, it doesn't just indicate that she's still hurt, it also suggests that she hasn't fully processed or moved on from her previous experiences. This creates a cycle of blame, resentment, and tension, preventing the relationship from moving forward in a healthy way. From a Stoic perspective, forgiveness is a key component to emotional peace and personal growth. The Stoics emphasized the importance of releasing grudges and anger because holding on to these negative emotions only harms the person carrying them. In the context of a relationship, bringing up past mistakes over and over again not only traps your partner in a constant state of guilt, but it also traps you in a state of unresolved pain and distrust. If your partner is unable to let go of your past errors, she's not allowing either of you the opportunity to grow, heal, and move forward. This kind of behavior, constantly revisiting mistakes, often points to deeper issues within her, such as unresolved trust problems. She may have been hurt in the past by someone who betrayed her or broke her trust, and as a result, she's hypervigilant, always on the lookout for signs that history will repeat itself. Unfortunately, this mindset means that she's always waiting for you to slip up again, even if you've made sincere efforts to change or have already apologized for your actions. The Stoics believed that human beings are capable of change and growth, but they also understood that holding on to past grievances hinders that growth. For a relationship to flourish, both partners need to give each other space to evolve. Constantly reminding someone of their past mistakes doesn't allow them the opportunity to improve, and it reinforces the idea that they will never be good enough or capable of real change. When a woman brings up past mistakes frequently, it's crucial to approach the situation with patience and understanding. First, you need to validate her feelings. If your actions hurt her in the past, acknowledging that pain can help her feel heard and understood. However, it's equally important to remind her that constantly dwelling on past mistakes is harmful, not just to you, but to the relationship as a whole. Let her know that while it's okay to learn from the past, the relationship can't thrive if it's stuck in a loop of blame and resentment. To address this issue effectively, you'll need to have an open and honest conversation about why she keeps bringing up the past. Ask her what's driving these feelings and whether there's something more she needs from you to feel secure in the relationship. In some cases, she may need more reassurance or deeper communication to rebuild her trust. But in other cases, it may be less about what you're doing now and more about her unresolved emotional baggage from previous relationships. If that's the case, it's important to recognize that her struggle to let go of the past may not be something you can fix on your own. The Stoics believed that while we can't control other people's emotions or actions, we can control how we respond. If your partner is unwilling or unable to let go of the past, you may need to set boundaries to protect your own emotional well-being. A healthy relationship requires both partners to be willing to forgive, grow, and focus on the present and future. If she's constantly pulling the relationship back into past mistakes, it's a sign that she may not be ready to move forward. Over time, the strain of constantly being reminded of past errors can erode the foundation of trust and respect in the relationship. You may start to feel as though nothing you do is good enough, and that no matter how much you've changed or tried to improve, she'll always see you through the lens of your past mistakes. This can lead to frustration, resentment, and emotional exhaustion for both of you. In the worst-case scenario, it can even cause the relationship to break down entirely. If your partner continues to hold on to the past despite your best efforts to address it, it's important to have a serious discussion about the future of the relationship. Explain that while you understand her pain, the constant focus on past mistakes is damaging the relationship and preventing both of you from moving forward. Be clear about your own boundaries and what you need in order to feel respected and valued in the relationship. The Stoics taught that true wisdom comes from knowing when to let go of things that are outside of our control. In the case of a partner who can't stop bringing up the past, you need to decide whether you're willing to continue trying to repair the relationship or if it's time to step back and focus on your own growth and well-being. At the end of the day, a healthy relationship requires both partners to be able to forgive, trust, and move forward together. If one person is constantly stuck in the past, it's impossible to build a future. As the Stoics would remind us, holding on to old wounds doesn't just hurt the other person, it hurts ourselves, and it keeps us from living fully in the present. If your partner can't let go of your past mistakes, it may be time to ask whether she's truly ready to be in a relationship where both partners can grow and evolve together. Chapter 6: Emotional Walls and Detachment. Another sign that a woman may be carrying unresolved baggage from her past is when she starts putting up emotional walls or becoming detached in the relationship. Emotional walls can manifest in many ways. Maybe she's unwilling to be vulnerable with you, avoids deep conversations, or emotionally shuts down when things get too serious. While everyone has different comfort levels when it comes to vulnerability, an inability to open up or a pattern of emotional detachment often points to past wounds that haven't healed. The Stoics believed in the power of vulnerability as a means of achieving true connection and understanding. They emphasized the importance of facing one's emotions head-on rather than avoiding them. When someone builds emotional walls, it's usually a defense mechanism stemming from fear of being hurt, fear of abandonment, or fear of betrayal. If a woman has experienced pain in past relationships, she may have developed these walls as a way to protect herself. Unfortunately, these defenses can also prevent her from fully investing in a new relationship. One common phrase you might hear when these emotional walls come up is, "I don't want to get too attached." While it seems harmless on the surface, it reveals a deeper hesitation to emotionally commit. It's a subtle acknowledgement that she's bracing for potential heartbreak and is afraid of becoming vulnerable. If you've heard her say this, or something similar, it's a clear sign that her past experiences may be influencing how she navigates emotional intimacy. In a healthy relationship, both partners should feel safe enough to be emotionally open and honest with each other. If she's constantly distancing herself, refusing to engage on a deeper level, or brushing off important emotional discussions, it can leave you feeling disconnected and unsure of where you stand. This detachment can be especially frustrating if you're doing your best to create a space where both of you can be vulnerable and grow together. It's essential to approach this with patience and empathy. Understand that her emotional walls likely come from a place of fear rather than malice. However, it's also important to communicate your need for emotional connection. A relationship cannot thrive if one partner is always keeping the other at arm's length. The Stoics would advise you to be steadfast in your own emotional integrity, be open, but don't push too hard. Encourage her to share her feelings, but respect her pace. At the same time, it's important to set boundaries for yourself. If her emotional detachment starts affecting your well-being or making you feel unappreciated, you have every right to address it. Let her know that while you understand her need for space, a relationship requires emotional engagement from both partners. If she's unwilling or unable to break down those walls, it may indicate that she's not ready for the kind of emotional intimacy that a healthy relationship requires. You can't force someone to open up, but you can decide what kind of relationship dynamic you're willing to accept. The Stoic philosophy teaches that while you can't control how someone else behaves, you can control how you respond to their actions. If her emotional detachment becomes too difficult to navigate, it's worth considering whether this relationship is truly fulfilling your emotional needs. At the end of the day, mutual emotional investment is essential for long-term connection and growth. Chapter 7: Lack of accountability for her past. One of the final signs that a woman may be carrying unresolved issues from her past is when she refuses to take accountability for her actions or behavior in previous relationships. You might notice that whenever the subject of past relationships comes up, she always casts herself as the victim. Her exes were always to blame, and she never did anything wrong. While it's entirely possible that she's had difficult relationships in the past, a pattern of never acknowledging her own role in those situations is a red flag. The Stoics believed in self-reflection and personal responsibility. They taught that wisdom comes from the ability to look inward and recognize one's own faults, learning from them to grow and become better. If a woman is unwilling to take accountability for her part in past relationships, it's a sign that she hasn't done the necessary self-reflection to heal and move forward. This can create problems in your current relationship because, without that accountability, she may be doomed to repeat the same mistakes. A phrase you might hear in these situations is, "I've never done anything wrong, it's always been the guys I've dated." This kind of statement is a clear signal that she is deflecting any personal responsibility and placing all the blame on others. While it's natural to have grievances from past relationships, refusing to acknowledge her role in those experiences may prevent her from growing and healing. When someone refuses to acknowledge their role in past conflicts, it becomes nearly impossible to resolve future ones. If she believes that she was always the victim and never had any responsibility for how things unfolded, then she's likely to approach your relationship with the same mindset. This can lead to an unhealthy dynamic where she deflects blame onto you or refuses to work on issues that arise because she believes she's never at fault. It's important to have open, honest conversations about accountability. Ask her to reflect on what she's learned from her past relationships and how those lessons can help both of you grow together. Encourage her to recognize that every relationship is a two-way street, and that personal growth comes from acknowledging not only how others may have hurt us, but also how we may have contributed to the situation. At the same time, be mindful of how you approach this conversation. The Stoics taught that change comes through gentle persuasion and leading by example, not through harsh criticism. If she feels attacked, she's likely to shut down even more. Instead, model the kind of accountability you'd like to see by reflecting on your own experiences and how they've shaped your behavior. By showing her that it's okay to acknowledge mistakes and learn from them, you may encourage her to do the same. However, it's important to recognize that if she remains unwilling to take responsibility for her actions, it may signal a deeper issue. A relationship cannot thrive when one partner is constantly deflecting blame or refusing to grow. The Stoics would remind you that while it's important to give others the opportunity to change, you also have the right to protect your own emotional well-being. If she continues to avoid accountability, it may be worth considering whether this relationship is truly fulfilling your needs for growth, trust, and mutual respect. At the end of the day, a successful relationship requires both partners to be accountable for their actions and willing to work on their flaws. Without that mutual commitment, it becomes difficult to build a lasting, healthy connection. The Stoics would advise you to approach this with patience and clarity, but to also remain firm in your own boundaries. A relationship based on blame shifting and avoidance of accountability will never allow you both to reach your full potential as a couple. As we wrap up this episode, it's important to remember that relationships are a journey of growth and understanding. The Stoics believed that wisdom and peace come from recognizing what we can control and accepting what we cannot. In the context of relationships, this means being aware of the behaviors and phrases that might indicate unresolved baggage and addressing them with patience, empathy, and clarity. A woman who utters any of these 7 phrases may be reflecting pain or unresolved issues from her past, but it's not necessarily the end of the relationship. What matters is how you both respond to these challenges. By staying true to your values, maintaining open communication, and setting healthy boundaries, you create a foundation of trust and respect. Remember, no relationship is without its hurdles, but with the right mindset and approach, you can turn these challenges into opportunities for growth. It's about being present, being mindful, and being committed to mutual respect and understanding. The Stoics would remind us that love and partnership require continuous effort, but the rewards of a strong, connected relationship are worth the work. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment below. Share your own experiences and let us know if you've ever encountered similar situations in your relationships. Your stories might help others going through the same thing, and together we can build stronger, healthier partnerships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay wise and keep growing.